Do you think the issues we saw in last night's SRX race will turn off some fans from the series completely?
Well, Kobe and Adam, what does SRX stand for? It stands for Superstar Racing Experience. What we saw on Saturday night was not racing. When you have a driver that has a mechanical issue or an engine issue and is forced to come into the pits for repairs, you cannot center the entire race around just that one driver to try to keep that driver in the race. First of all, you're running caution laps anyway. So if caution laps count, caution laps don't count. I mean, that's a whole nother debate we can get into with short tracks and dirt track racing and all that. But that needs to be consistent all throughout the series. And I'm sure that there are some fans that have very strong opinions on that. They're going to be divided on that issue to begin with. But then it doesn't even matter because the race goes green anyway. And Deegan's on pit road for what was it, 8 or 10 green flag laps? And then she finally gets her car, or crew finally gets her car back into the race. And they throw her back out there on track, and she's on the lead lap racing as if nothing ever happened. I'm sorry. Racing is an inherently complicated sport. It is a team sport. And if your team did not prepare your car well enough to be able to last the entire race, or they messed something up and led you to have a mechanical issue or whatever the case may be, that's your race done. It sucks. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of motor racing sometimes. You cannot just allow, like, I'll give you an example here. I'm thinking back to, there's infinite number of examples, but in 2012, there was a great IndyCar championship points battle between Will Power and Ryan Hunter-Reay. Power ended up crashing out of the race, but because there's no damaged vehicle policy in IndyCar, the crew got his car back to the point where it could go out, log a few laps, get back in the race, move up one position on the leaderboard, give him a couple extra points. It ended up not mattering because Ryan Hunter-Reay won the championship anyway. But imagine if IndyCar had said, okay, Will, I know you're a bunch of laps down, but because we want an entertaining championship battle, we're just going to let you back out there on the lead lap as if nothing happened. You can go race Ryan for a championship still. That's not what racing is. I'm sorry, but the fans that have been able to put up with the fun flag, and people know that I have not been a fan of SRX since the start. That's the main turnoff for me. But I think, aside from the coverage, aside from the timing and scoring issues, that's going to be the main talking point. That's going to be the biggest issue that people have. If a driver is on pit road for 10 laps under green and is then allowed to just rejoin, why can't a driver just say, I'm going to pull off on lap 1, sit in the pits for 60 laps, and then save my equipment for the last 10 laps because they're going to let me back on the lead lap anyway. I'm going to have a fresh car. I'm going to drive through to an easy win. I mean, why can't you do that? It would be logically consistent with what happened with Deegan last night. I just don't understand the reasoning behind that. I guess it was solely for the sake of entertainment. And, maybe we should call it the Superstar Entertainment Experience instead. Actually, maybe we shouldn't, because then the acronym wouldn't go over very well, I think, on social media and everything. But you guys know what I'm saying. It's just not racing what we saw Saturday night. And it's very unfortunate because there was a lot of hype surrounding this series. The viewership has dropped on CBS. There's questions as to whether or not the series is even going to get a third season. And if it is, primetime CBS, I'm sure, can't be too happy with the numbers that it's putting in. So I think there's a lot of question marks, and Saturday night certainly did not help solve many of those.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ben. It seems like the future of SRX certainly has to be in up in the air right now, and it's truly unfortunate. Like you were saying, there was a lot of hype about the series when it was first announced and had the first season last year, and I thought it went reasonably well, all things considered, last year. And a lot of people were so excited after the finale at Nashville Fairgrounds last year, and they were hyped for a second season of SRX. But I think it's safe to say, the second season of SRX certainly hasn't lived up to the hype as the first. And you brought up the point about TV, Ben. CBS, they're gonna look at the numbers, and they're gonna have to make a decision. And if CBS aren't really happy with the drop in ratings, they may decide that they're not gonna renew SRX for a third season. And if Tony Stewart, Ray Evernham, Donald Hawk decide to do another season of SRX racing, it might not be on CBS Saturday night in prime time. Might have to look to a streaming platform like Flow Racing or something like that. That might have to be what SRX becomes if CBS is not going to renew that contract.